Tonight, the Chancellor warns of harder times in the months ahead. But is the government planning to raise taxes in the budget? In her speech to conference here in Liverpool, Rachel Reeves takes aim at the Conservatives and reform. But the Prime Minister's right-hand man evades questions on whether manifesto promises on tax will be kept.
I'm not ruling anything out or anything in. All I'm saying is today the manifesto stands. We've got a budget process to go through.
Also tonight, the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood describes those who took to the streets in London this month as heirs to the skinheads of old, even as she announces an immigration crackdown designed to take on reform. Pressure on the government as conference passes a resolution that says that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Plus, can the King of the North win the crown in Westminster? Our deputy political editor, Sam Coates, will be here with some exclusive polling that suggests Andy Burnham would beat Keir Starmer in a leadership contest. We're expecting high approval ratings for our duo tonight. That is John McDonnell and Stella Creasy, who will be with us for the next hour. It's Monday. I'm Sophy Ridge, live from Liverpool, and this is the Politics Hub. Now, of course, we're here in Liverpool, but I did just want to bring you these live pictures we're getting through now from the White House, where Donald Trump and Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are due to hold a news conference very shortly. Now, of course, we will bring you that live when they appear and take questions from journalists there. But in the meantime, while we wait for that, let's have an update from the Labour conference, shall we? Because Rachel Reeves has done her big speech to Labour delegates about the economy, and everyone is now poring over it for any hints about what's to come in November's budget. But I actually think one of the most revealing moments of today was an interview with Darren Jones, the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister, former Treasury man, so he absolutely knows what's going on. And, you know, I just want to say first, I know it is annoying when journalists ask questions about the budget before it's been announced, because, look, you know, on the one hand, what can politicians say? They can't give it away. Then we end up with weeks of frenzied speculation and overinterpretation about tiny nuances on what people said. But this felt different. It felt deliberate. I just want to play it to you, and then I think you will see what I mean. Some people are saying that Rachel Reeves has effectively ruled out tax rises in the budget, like VAT, income tax, that's all not moving. And then others are saying that actually she's left herself a bit of wriggle room, it's carefully worded. What is actually the truth?
Well, the truth is today the manifesto stands. I mean, you've seen the wording on that. Rachel's told you that in interviews. The budget is not until November the 26th. So we're not going to say at party conference today what the budget is. We have to tell the country that in Parliament in the normal way.
But will the manifesto stand at the budget?
Well, the manifesto stands today because decisions haven't been taken yet. We've got forecasts coming.
It might change before the budget, then.
Well, we've got forecasts coming from the Office of Budget Responsibility. We don't know what those say yet. The first one comes this Friday. We've got another 2 or 3 to go until we get to November. And when the Chancellor is in a position to make decisions, which she will be in the coming weeks, she will make those decisions and then she'll tell the country at budget in the normal way.
So basically you cannot rule out raising VAT or income tax, for example, now?
I'm not ruling anything out or anything in. All I'm saying is today the manifesto stands.
I mean, look, that felt like a pretty deliberate opening of the door to the possibility of manifesto breaking tax rises. The manifesto stands today. Nothing can be ruled out. So what does it mean? I've got 2 theories. Either they genuinely don't know if they're going to have to put up these taxes or not. You know, the OBR is ruling on Friday about the size of the black hole. They don't know how bad it's going to be, so they don't know what actions they'll need to take to plug it. Or is this expectation management? They're going to stick to the manifesto, but they want the credit for doing it. And look, there's no better way to secure that than by flying a load of kites, hinting they're going to break their promises. You know, call me an old cynic. Well, we will get more reaction to that in a moment. But first, a little earlier, I spoke to the Education Secretary and Deputy Labour leadership contender, Bridget Phillipson. Thank you very much for being on the programme. Good to have you here. So you, of course, made your sort of big speech to conference earlier today. And in that speech, you said that you can guarantee that child poverty would be lower by the end of the Parliament, that it's a driving moral purpose of the government. So does that mean you're going to be scrapping the 2-child benefit cap?
But I've been clear about the evidence. I've been clear that scrapping the 2-child limit is on the table. But I'm leading that child poverty task force. I'm in the cabinet. I'll be in a position to make change happen and get things done. And what I've said to members is that tackling child poverty will be my #1 priority in this area. I've already delivered a lot. Expanding free school meals to 500,000 more children from next year will lift 100,000 children out of poverty. I don't just talk about child poverty, I act to make change happen. And it's really personal to me. It's what brought me into politics. I know what it feels like to grow up not having very much. And I'm determined for this new generation of children that they don't endure that moral scar of child poverty. The difference is, I'll have a seat at the table to make change happen, to build on the work we've already delivered.
You say you can guarantee it. That means scrapping it, doesn't it? Not just that it's on the table or not. You put it out there, the guarantee, so that means you're going to do it.
But I know what needs to happen, right, in order to tackle child poverty.
What needs to happen?
Go on,
say it.
The evidence is very clear about the impact of the two-child limit. Of course, there are measures that have to be taken in different fiscal events and in budgets. But, I fought tooth and nail to expand free school meals to 500,000 more children. That's my track record of delivery. So my message to members when they're voting in this contest is, do they want someone who can unite our party and take action on the things we really care about, like child poverty? Or do they want someone from the outside who won't be in that position of influence?
Have you been fighting with the Treasury on it then?
Well, I have lots of conversations with my colleagues in the Treasury about what needs to happen. I've been successful in many of those fights,
yes,
as you will have seen.
Is it yes?
Look, I'm someone that believes in the importance of having those discussions behind closed doors. I hold confidences. If you'll have a robust conversation behind the scenes, you come out, you hold to that, because politics is a team sport. And I think, what I've heard from members here in Liverpool this week is that they want us to unite as a party. They want us to get out there, be proud of the things that we've done. Yes, do more. And I'm seeking a mandate to do more. But we're not going to beat reform if we're fighting ourselves.
We had Rachel Reeves' speech today, alongside your own, of course, where she made it pretty clear that there are going to be difficult decisions to be taken in the budget, not least over tax. And, I always thought that those kind of 3 taxes that you said in your manifesto weren't going to change. That was going to happen, right? So VAT, employees, national insurance and income tax. But then I spoke to Darren Jones about this today, and he said the manifesto stands today and he couldn't go further than that because things hadn't been decided. I'm just trying to work out, what's your understanding on it? Do you think that the manifesto commitment on tax needs to stay the same?
Well, we made those commitments in the manifesto. We hold to them. We take the commitments we made in that manifesto incredibly seriously. And that is the right thing to do. I mean, I'm not going to come on and write Rachel Reeves' budget for months ahead of time. But I do know that working people have faced an ever-rising tax burden. They faced it under the Conservatives for many years. My priority is to put more money back into the pockets of working people. That's what I've done in government. New free breakfast clubs, free school meals, £7,500 that is going to parents of children who are taking up the 30 hours of funded childcare that I've been delivering. Those are the actions of a government that want working people to be better off.
It's difficult though, isn't it? Because look, we all can see the economic situation as well, right? Rachel Reeves was very clear about it today. She said there are still those who peddle the idea that we could just abandon economic responsibility. Who do you think she's talking about?
There have been lots of voices making the case for why, fiscal responsibility doesn't matter, why rules around the economy don't matter. They do matter. Because, we saw with Liz Truss what happens where you play fast and loose with the public finances, where you make reckless decisions, where you don't take a responsible approach. The reason that we're able to do all of those brilliant things I've just set out around childcare, around breakfast clubs, free school meals, is because we've brought economic stability back into the economy, and therefore we can invest. If you don't have that cornerstone, you can't make the decisions around investment.
You say that there's lots of voices. I mean, one of them has been Andy Burnham, right? He said that Labour can't be in hot to the bond markets. Is he being economically irresponsible?
I don't think it's a responsible approach to be taking. We saw what happened with the bond markets under Liz Truss. Working people have been paying the price on their mortgages. They paid the price on their mortgages after Liz Truss had that reckless and cavalier approach. The last thing working people need is to suffer any further. It's under this government that we're bringing down mortgage rates and people are better off as a result because of the interest rate cuts that have happened. But, we've got to be serious as politicians about our responsibilities. The British public know that stability matters. They're not daft. They know that you've got to have an economy with a set of rules where you can invest. And, that's a responsibility on all of us.
There's a Sky poll that's out today, a YouGov poll, saying that Andy Burnham would beat Keir Starmer 2-1 among Labour members if a leadership contest was held today. you think he'd make a good leader of the Labour Party, Andy Burnham?
Well, it's not a contest, so it's a totally hypothetical question I'm not going to get into.
Do you think he's, I guess, needs to kind of wind his neck in a bit?
That's for him, really, isn't it?
Oh, what do you think?
I think he's doing a great job where he is, and there isn't a leadership vacancy, so we can maybe get behind our elected leader and take the fight to reform.
Let's talk about the deputy leadership contest, shall we? You, of course, running to be deputy leader. You got a little name check in Rachel Reeves' speech today. She said there's no greater champion for working class kids than you. Did you know she was going to mention you?
No, I didn't know she was going to mention that.
Do you think it's a help or a hindrance being seen as, the Chancellor's pick and also number 10's pick?
Look, I'm my own woman. I'm nobody's choice other than the members' choice if they choose to elect me as deputy leader. I've got my own track record that I'm standing on. I have actually in recent months faced down rather a lot of nonsense from various quarters. So I think I've demonstrated what I can get done and what our members will see more of if they elect me as their deputy leader.
What kind of nonsense?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot in the press. I've had to face down some of the vested interests in education as well. And I've come out the other side more determined than ever to deliver for working class kids across our country.
I know you're going to get the line, and I understand, that you're your own woman, all that sort of stuff, which I do understand. But you are the number 10 pick, right? It does feel like that. Do you think that there is an argument that you've got to be an independent voice if you are a deputy leader?
Look, I'm in the cabinet, so yes, I'm a part of the government. But I think that's a strength, and I think it will be a strength for members and for our movement to have that voice at the cabinet table when decisions are being made. Angela Rayner did a brilliant job as deputy leader, but she wasn't just deputy leader, she was running a big government department. The same was also true of John Prescott. And there's been a few suggestions during this campaign that somehow that it's a part-time role. I mean, I think it's pretty insulting to suggest that Angela or John or Harriet Harman, many of our brilliant deputy leaders, were anything other than full-time committed to the party and what they are doing. And what I would bring is that voice at the cabinet table to bring our members together, to bring our movement together. And I'm really proud to have the support of, many of our big affiliated trade unions who have worked with me, know what I can get done, and trust me to bring their concerns to the table and to make change happen.
Can you give me an example of something that you disagree with Keir Starmer on?
Look, we have disagreements in government, from time to time. That's usual. What I'm not going to come and do is air our dirty linen in public. And the reason I say that is that we succeed as a team. We stand together, we unite, we take the fight to our opponents. That's what members want. That's what they've always wanted. Divided parties don't win elections. How can we possibly beat reform if we're busy arguing amongst ourselves? But will I make my views known behind the scenes? Will I get things done? Yes. Look at my track record. I think it speaks for itself.
You mentioned there about Angela Rayner and sort of paid tribute to her as the deputy leader. And it felt to me like Angela Rayner was successful because she didn't feel like a politician, right? She kind of felt quite normal, I guess. She seemed real. She was kind of DJing and vaping and occasionally being a bit outrageous. And I just wondered, do you think you're a bit... what's the most outrageous thing you've ever done? Are you a rebel as well, or...?
Look, we all have our different personalities, don't we? And I'm probably a bit more of a reserved person than Angela by nature. I was always quite shy when I was a kid, so... stepping into this kind of role as a politician is, not without its challenges from time to time. Look, I am, I've got kids. I go about my life. People who know me well know who I am, know what I'm about. But when you
did a shot at a DJ event, didn't you? I saw a clip of that. What happened there?
I like to have a good time.
What was in the shot?
I'm not entirely sure, but it was all right. I like to go to gigs. I go out. Of course, like politicians, of course, we're people. I know, we've got important roles, responsibilities, but we all of us, and this is not just about me, we all of us kind of live our lives and do our thing away from, being on programmes like yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Bridget Phillipson there setting out her stall for that deputy leadership. I should introduce our panel for the evening, the newly restored Labour MP and the former Shadow Chancellor under Jeremy Corbyn, John McDonnell, and the former Shadow Business Minister under
a long time ago.
That was it, yeah. And former Deputy Leadership Runner.
Oh, well, that was an even longer time.
Current Labour MP also. Let's go big picture, shall we? John... It's interesting you've got the whip back just before conference. Do you think that this is a leadership that is, I guess, trying to make some ground after a difficult year? Where do you think Keir Starmer enters this conference?
I hope so. I really hope so. We've tried to indicate all the way along where, as MPs, we're backbench MPs, our job is to talk to the whips and the leadership where we think things are going right and where things are going wrong. So for all this period where we've identified something going wrong, we've said so. The reaction has been sometimes certainly not listening and sometimes disciplinary threats. And then with me it was the 2-child limit, you know, and I have history with it going back to the Osborne days, and that wasn't taken into account. So I and a number of colleagues, because we voted that way, and it was during the King's speech, but it wasn't against the King's speech, it was an amendment, they took the whip away. Now I'm hoping me coming back in that way, I got the news on Friday night from Johnny Reynolds, the new chief whip, I'm hoping that's a signal they're going to shift on the 2-child limit, and I think they are by the looks of it.
I mean, listen to Bridget Phillipson there, it felt pretty clear to me.
Well, that'll be huge for us back in our constituency. We've got child poverty in our constituency on a level we've never seen before, and it will lift children out of poverty straight away. Yeah,
well, I mean, it definitely felt like that from that interview.
Yeah.
I guess the message from Rachel Reeves was that, look, there's got to be fiscal discipline, and that anyone who thinks there hasn't needs a bit of a wake-up call, Stella.
Yeah, but a lot of us also believe that tackling poverty is really good for the economy, because poverty is a drag on growth. When you've got people with too much month at the end of their money, it's really hard for them to run their lives, to keep their jobs stable, to be able to look after their kids. Actually getting money into people's pockets is a good thing to do. I think we would both also agree that we don't want the welfare system to be the answer to poverty in this country, because we want people to be able to get decently paid jobs. And one of the things that is really worrying is right now, actually getting women into work is not the way that you end child poverty, because we underpay women in this country. There are a lot of challenges. If we got them right, they'd be good for the economy. They're also at the heart of social justice.
I don't want to... Basic economics, you put money in people's pockets, they spend it. In spending it, people have to produce the goods that they buy, and as a result of that, people get employed to produce those goods. It's just basic economics, isn't it? That's what we're arguing for.
I want to pick up on, because I think John is right, actually. There is a cultural challenge that we've got to get right in this party. Now, we've been around. John and I have disagreed on things and we've agreed on other things, but being able to talk about and being able to talk about stuff is about stress testing ideas at its best. So one of the things I remember, you look at conferences of old and you would have Hugh Gateskill and Nye Bevan and Barbara Castle all talking at the same time, but nobody ever suggested that it was disrespectful to have different ideas. We've got to get back to the best of the Labour movement, where actually we can have a debate, disagree agreeably, but also use that to make sure our ideas are working. Because I think, if I'm honest, some of the things in the last year that haven't worked have been because maybe backbenchers have been trying to say, I'm worried about this, and they've been an early warning system of challenges.
Never listened through.
Yeah. Can I ask, as you know, former Shadow Chancellor, what did you make of Darren Jones's comments to me earlier? Because it felt like a pretty deliberate, opening of the door.
OK. I watched your interview at lunchtime when he says the manifesto stands. I hadn't got a clue what that meant. You pressed him time and time again. The reality is we know what's going to happen. There are going to have to be tax rises. We know that. I would rather we started preparing the ground for them now than it come in a big bang budget where everybody then reacts against it. And also, I'd rather there was a bit of consultation about them, because there might be some ideas that we think aren't going to work. I wouldn't have increased national insurance. It was always going to be designated as an employees. Whenever the officials used to come to me and say, we'd engage in discussions before an election, implement our manifesto with the officials. Whenever they raised the issue of national insurance, you knew it was going to be politically damaging, but economically damaging as well. So I'd rather they started talking about the options now, that we can have a proper discussion, and then they can get a better decision at the end of the day. Just on the point that was being made by Stella, Keir is an admirer of Harold Wilson. Harold Wilson's cabinets were rumbustious, left, right and centre, but they made better decisions as a result.
Thanks both. We'll have lots more from you hopefully throughout the programme, but we of course are still waiting for that Donald Trump news conference with Benjamin Netanyahu. As soon as it starts, we'll bring it to you. But we're starting to get to that stage where we're getting a little bit more information about what might be announced, and we can go now to the White House and speak to our US correspondent, Mark Stone. Mark, what's happening?
Yeah, I'm just looking through a 20-point plan that has just been published by the White House. It is titled President Donald J. Trump's Comprehensive Plan to End the Gaza Conflict. This is the first formal publication of a plan that was initially 21 points. I'm trying to work out which point is missing from this, but it is a very detailed assessment or plan for how Donald Trump says that the Gaza conflict can be brought to an end. And, you know, as I say, it's long, it's detailed, but it is just a plan. And what we don't yet know is the degree to which the Israelis will accept it. Netanyahu is here at the White House right now. We're awaiting the news conference. And crucially, the degree to which Hamas, both the political wing in Doha and the military wing still in Gaza, whether they will approve to it. But it says that, approve it. It says Gaza will be a de-radicalized, terror-free zone that does not pose a threat to its neighbors. It will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza, who have suffered more than enough. It says if both sides agree to this proposal, the war will immediately end. Israeli forces will withdraw to the agreed upon line to prepare for a hostage release. It says within 72 hours of Israel publicly accepting this agreement, all hostages, alive and deceased, will be returned. And then it says once all hostages are released, Israel will release 250 life sentence prisoners plus 1,700 Gazans who were detained after the 7th of October 2023. Now, from a British perspective, there is a point further down, point 9, that I think will interest you, Sophie. Tony Blair. He is named specifically in this document. It says that the Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering day-to-day running of public services in municipalities to the people of Gaza. The committee, it says, will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a number of a new international transitional body, the Board of Peace, it will be called. It will be chaired, so this document says, by President Trump, with other members and heads of state to be announced, including former British Prime Minister Tony Blair. The body will set the framework and handle the funding of the redevelopment of Gaza until such time as the Palestinian Authority has completed its reform programme. And so it goes on. It makes the point specifically that no Palestinians will be forced to leave Gaza as part of this plan. But this is, without question, the most detailed assessment that we've got from the White House about how they can bring all of this to an end. And the mention of Tony Blair there is fascinating. He has been a key part behind the scenes of the day after planning for Gaza. He has never been drawn publicly on whether he wants to have a role, but it's clearly the view of the US president that he wants Tony Blair to be involved. Indeed, Tony Blair is the only other person named specifically in this document as having a key role in Gaza's post-war future.
Wow, Mark, really, really fascinating and important stuff. Mark, thank you very much indeed. You're looking now at the live pictures from within the White House. We've seen the Vice President enter. We've seen the Secretary of State enter. Only a matter of time now before we see the two men of the moment, Donald Trump, the US President, and Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. And of course, they're going to be giving their reaction to this detailed 20-point plan put forward by the Americans. And I just want to emphasise what Mark just told us, that under this plan, point 9, Gaza will be governed under the temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services. Obviously, this is because they don't want Hamas to be involved in any of this future state. And of course, interestingly, it will be headed and chaired by Donald Trump, other members and heads of state to be announced, including the former Prime Minister Tony Blair. So very, very interesting. And it will be interesting to see how this conference here in Liverpool reacts to that news as well. We did, of course, have that understanding that Tony Blair was involved in these talks, but now that confirmation that there is a formal role and that this body that he's involved with, along with Donald Trump, will then set the framework and the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza. So that just some of the detail that we've got. And what I think is very clear here as we wait for the President and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is that this is a comprehensive and detailed plan. Will it be accepted by the Israelis? Will it be accepted by Hamas, by the other side? I mean, there are a lot of questions. Some of them may be entered into in this press conference. I'm just going to bring in John McDonnell and Stella Creasy as we await, and I would say I apologise in advance if I break away from you when we see the emergence of the President. Stella, it is something that
I think we all want to see, because there are many, many questions out of this, not least it looks at the moment like a decision that has been made between Netanyahu and Trump. If this is going to work, and we all want peace to work, we all want to stop the horror of what is happening in Gaza, it has to be something that all sides can sign up to. And what we do not know at the moment, from what you're saying, is what the reaction of the Palestinian people will be, and also wider Israeli society as well. So, this is obviously a big development, but for many of us, it will raise a number of very serious concerns about self-determination, about the rights of people, about actually the timescales involved in it, what the protections are, how you get aid in, what that means for the hostage families. I could go on, and we haven't seen your 21-point plan.
Yeah. It is difficult, of course, to react to it as it's just coming in.
Of course, we all want to see an end to the slaughter, and we all want to see an end to this crisis.
Well, the key question is...
And peace for both sides.
The key question is where are the Palestinians?
Yeah.
They're not at this table.
So,
have they been involved in all the negotiations? It doesn't sound like it. I don't think anything will fly unless the Palestinians will support it. And it isn't just the Palestinian leaders, it's the Palestinian street as well. It won't fly in that sense. Yeah. And I have to say the involvement of Tony Blair doesn't... I don't think it will inspire confidence in the Middle East because of his previous role historically there. But I'm going to be interested to see what the Palestinian leaders are sophisticated in their politics. They'll go through this in detail, and they'll come with a considered response. But I'm sure the first principle would be Palestinian people determine their own future.
Let's listen now. We can see there that the US President and the Israeli Prime Minister entering the room. As is customary, you get the US reporters standing for the arrival of the President, but this is an important day. Let's listen.
So this is a big, big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. Things that have been going on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. We're going to, at least we're at a minimum very, very close, and I think we're beyond very close. And I want to thank Bibi for really getting in there and doing a job. We've worked well together, as we have with many other countries, both of us, with many other countries, which is the only way this whole situation gets solved. And I'm not just talking about Gaza. Gaza is one thing, but we're talking about much beyond Gaza. The whole deal, everything getting solved. It's called peace in the Middle East. So today is a historic day for peace, and Prime Minister Netanyahu and I have just concluded an important meeting on many vital issues, including Iran, trade, the expansion of the Abraham Accords, and most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East. And let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East. So this is far more than anybody expected, but the level of support that I've had from the nations in the Middle East and surrounding Israel and neighbors of Israel has been incredible, incredible. Every single one of them. This afternoon, after extensive consultation with our friends and partners throughout the region, I'm formally releasing our principles for peace, which people have really liked, I must say. And these are done not just routinely done, these are done with total consideration and working with the nations that we're talking about. All of these nations have made contributions to those suggestions. I want to thank the leaders of many Arab and Muslim nations for their tremendous support in developing the proposal, along with many of our allies in Europe. Europe has been very much involved, and as I was called by many of the European leaders, most of them saying, is this true? Are you really doing peace in the Middle East? This is the most incredible thing we've heard. Some think it's the biggest thing they've ever heard. They called just to find out, was it just a rumor or is it actually done? And then he said, have you spoken to the Arab leaders? Have you spoken to all of the other leaders that we have to get? A lot of people involved in this one. I also want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for agreeing to the plan and for trusting that if we work together, we can bring an end to the death and destruction that we've seen for so many years, decades, even centuries, and begin a new chapter of security, peace, and prosperity for the entire region. And I want to just say that my meetings and dialogue that we had with so many countries, Saudi Arabia as an example, the king is a phenomenal person. The Emir of Qatar, he's incredible people. UAE, and that's MBZ and ABZ. We're totally involved. These are the people that we've been dealing with and who've been actually very much involved in this negotiation, giving us ideas, things they can live with, things they can't live with. Pretty complex. I mean, after 2,000, 3,000 years, whatever it is, I guess it's got to be a little complex, or it would have been done a long time ago. The King of Jordan was with us, as you know, in the United Nations. The President of Turkey, President Erdogan, is a friend of mine, a strong man, but a good man. President of Indonesia, somebody who's an amazing leader, Prabowo. He is an amazing leader and respected by everybody. He was in the room with us. We were together with most of these people that I'm mentioning. Others were by phone or the next day. The Prime Minister and the Field Marshal of Pakistan, they were with us right from the beginning. Incredible. In fact, they just put out a statement that they fully believe in this pact. It just came out just as I was walking around. They said, sir, you have a big notice from the Prime Minister of Pakistan and from the Field Marshal that they back this 100%. President El-Sisi of Egypt, who's terrific. And these are people I've gotten to know over the years. I mean, I would say it started around 2015 and then went into 2016 when the presidency officially began. But I've known him actually for a long time, and there are many cases really great men. I can't say in all cases, but I will tell you in many cases they're great men and some great women too. They tend to be mostly men, however, I will say that. But if accepted by Hamas, this proposal calls for the release of all remaining hostages immediately, but in no case more than 72 hours. So the hostages are coming back, and I hate even saying this from the standpoint, doesn't sound right, but it is so important to the parents. The bodies of the young men, I believe in almost all cases, the young men are coming back immediately. I met with parents. The parents felt as strongly about getting the body of their dead boy back as they did as though the boy were alive and well. It's so important to them. And it means the immediate end to the war itself, not just Gaza. It's the war itself. Under the plan, Arab and Muslim countries have committed, and in writing in many cases, but I actually would take their word for it. The people I mentioned, I'd take their word for it, to demilitarize Gaza, and that's quickly. Decommission the military capabilities of Hamas and all other terror organizations. Do that immediately. And we're relying on the countries that I named and others to deal with Hamas. And I'm hearing that Hamas wants to get this done too, and that's a good thing. And destroy all terror infrastructure, including the tunnels, weapons of production facilities. They have a lot of production facilities that we're destroying. They'll also help train local police forces in the areas that we're discussing right now, in particular in and around Gaza. Working with the new transitional authority in Gaza, all parties will agree on a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw in phases. They'll be withdrawing in phases. no more shooting, hopefully, as progress is made toward achieving these goals. Arab and Muslim nations need to be allowed the chance to fulfill these commitments of dealing with Hamas. They have to deal with them because they were the one group that we have not dealt with. I haven't dealt with them. But the Arab countries are going to, and Muslim countries are going to be dealing with Hamas, and I believe they've already been there. I think they probably have an understanding, and they haven't maybe mentioned that, but I would imagine they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone as far as they've gone. If they're unable to do so, then Israel would have the absolute right and actually our full backing, the U.S. full backing. Marco's here, and a lot of our leaders are here, our great Vice President, Susie Wiles, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. They've been so involved in this process. I don't think anybody else could have done it or even come close. But it's we're right there. We're right there. First time in thousands of years, I think you can probably say, if you really look into it, if you study back, if you're a scholar, you would say thousands of years. Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas. But I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do. Everyone understands that the ultimate result must be the elimination of any danger posed in the region, and that danger is caused by Hamas. The tyranny of terror has to end, and this is, again, something that we're looking for. This is eternity. This is for forever. To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace, we call it, the Board of Peace, sort of a beautiful name, the Board of Peace, which will be headed, not at my request, believe me, I'm very busy, but we have to make sure this works. The leaders of the Arab world and Israel and everybody involved asked me to do this, so it would be headed by a gentleman known as President Donald J. Trump of the United States. That's what I want, is some extra work to do, but it's so important that I'm willing to do it, and we'll do it right, and we're going to put leaders from other countries on, and leaders that are very distinguished leaders, and we'll have a board, and one of the people that wants to be on the board is the UK former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, good man, very good man, and some others. And they'll be named over the next few days. And it'll be quite the board. Working, everybody wants to be on it now. I don't know if that had anything to do. They named me and everybody else wanted to be on it. I guess they figure, well, he's a soft touch. He'll be easy to deal with. Working with the World Bank and others, it will be responsible for recruiting and training a new government that will be made up of Palestinians, along with highly qualified experts from all around the world. Hamas and other terrorist factions will play no role in the board, but they'll play no role in the governance of Gaza at all, directly or indirectly. As you know, thousands of Hamas leaders have been killed and soldiers have been killed. And we can never forget October 7th, but thousands have paid the price for that. And now it's time to get our hostages back and get back to trying to build something that's really great and very important. In our meeting today, Prime Minister Netanyahu was very clear about his opposition to a Palestinian state. And he continuously mentions October 7th, and I understand that. Most people do. And I understand and respect his position on many things, but what he's doing today is so good for Israel. I noticed that they have large crowds gathering in Israel all the time, and they have my name up. They like me for whatever reason, Bibi, I don't know, but they do like me. But they say two things. please get the hostages back and please end the war. They've had it. It's had it. So I think it's a very popular thing you do because he's a warrior. He doesn't know about getting back to a normal way of life, but he is a warrior, and Israel's lucky to have him. But now the people want to get back to peace. They want to get back to normalization in a true sense. Several countries have foolishly recognized the Palestinian state. As you know, some of our European friends, allies, good people, but they're really, I think, doing that because they're very tired of what's going on for so many decades. They've been presidents and prime ministers for years, and during this time, having to do with the Middle East, all they're doing is talking about the same thing over and over. They want to see it get back. And nobody wants that more than me, or I believe Bibi too. But the people of Israel want it. They really want it. They want the hostages back. That includes the probably 32 bodies that we're talking about, 20 people that are living, 32 or so people that are dead, and they want to have peace. So let us not forget how we got here. Hamas was elected by the Palestinian people. Israel withdrew from Gaza thinking they would live in peace. Remember that a long time ago, they withdrew. They said, you take it. This is our contribution to peace. But that didn't work out. That didn't work out. It was the opposite of peace. They pulled away. They let them have it. And I never forgot that because I said, that doesn't sound like a good deal to me. As a real estate person, I mean, they gave up the ocean, right? Ron, they gave up the ocean. They said, who would do this deal? And it still didn't work out. They were very generous, actually. And they gave up the most magnificent piece of land in many ways in the Middle East. And they said, all we want to do now is have peace. And that request was not honored. Instead of building a better life for the Palestinians, Hamas diverted resources to build over 400 miles of tunnels and terror infrastructure, rocket production facilities, and hid their military command posts and launch sites in hospitals, schools, and mosques. So if you went after them, you'd be after them, and you wouldn't even realize you ended up knocking out a hospital or school or a mosque. That terrible thing, terrible, terrible way to have to fight. No fight is good, but that's a real bad one. So there are many Palestinians who wish to live in peace. Many, many, many. I've seen so many of them. And they have support. And I challenge the Palestinians to take responsibility for their destiny, because that's what we're giving them. We're giving them responsibility for their destiny, fully condemn and prohibit terrorism and earn their way to a brighter future. They don't want the life that they've had. They've had a rough life with Hamas. If the Palestinian Authority does not complete the reforms that I laid out in my vision for peace in 2020, they'll have only themselves to blame. We're giving them an amazing footprint, and they have amazing support from the leaders of the Arab world and the Muslim world, the great leaders. These are great leaders. These are unbelievable leaders that have built great countries and very wealthy countries. What the future holds for the Palestinians, no one really knows, but the plan that we put forward today is focused on ending the war immediately, getting all of our hostages back, getting everything back. Hard to believe when you even say it, and creating conditions for durable Israeli security and Palestinian success. Israeli security is going to be involved. We're going to help you. We'll be there with you in terms of helping with security. We want to make sure it works. We just want to make sure it works. There shouldn't be a shot fired. Now, there will be, I guess, because that's the way it seems to be, but they shouldn't have to be within a few days. There shouldn't have to be a shot fired. Maybe for eternity. Wouldn't that be nice? I hope it's true. I can tell you the leadership of that region feels that there's a good chance of it being true. So this will lead to this agreement that we're talking about will lead to a sustainable, long-term peace. No president in history has been a greater friend of the state of Israel than I have, in addition to negotiating the Abraham Accords. I like to say it that way because the real people, that's what they call Abraham. I would say Abraham, but it's so much nicer when you say Abraham. So much more elegant. But the Abraham Accords, they're amazing. Jared, you did that along with your group of geniuses, and nobody thought that could be done. We have 4 countries, and Sleepy Joe Biden didn't do a thing. He didn't even know what the hell they were. He should have had them fold up. But I think this will also lead to packing them. And who knows, maybe even Iran can get in there. I hope, we hope we're going to be able to get along with Iran. I think they're going to be open to it. I really believe that. But they could be a member. I long ago said, I'll bet you at some point Iran will be a member of the Accords. And little did I realize it was going to take this turn. That was some turn we did with the B-2s. But I think they might very well be there because it's a great thing for them economically. I recognize the eternal capital of Israel. I opened the American embassy in Jerusalem. That was something that everyone said would never be done, could never be done. Virtually every president for many, many years, for decades, would campaign on making Jerusalem the capital of Israel. They campaigned on it over and over. Is that right, Steve? Is that right? Everyone, and when they got to it, and I understand why now, because it was so. When I got to office, I campaigned on it too. I said, we're going to make it. And then I'd get calls from the leaders of various countries saying, please don't do it, please don't do it. It'll end the whole world, please don't do it. And finally, I just didn't say anything, and I did it. People were calling me before I did it because they heard I was going to do it, and leaders of countries were calling me, and I think it was on a Thursday that I did it, and they'd call me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3-4 times a day, and I said, tell them I'll call them back on Friday. And I announced it on Thursday, and I called them back, the biggest people in the world, and they said, you've done it. I said, done what? You've made the capital of Israel, Jerusalem, and we wanted to talk yet. I wish you called me a little sooner. Maybe I could have done something about it. So that was a lot easier than getting into an argument, because I knew what they were calling about. And you know what? It turned out to be amazing. Everybody thought it was going to lead to the end of the world, right? The end of the world, Ron, that's what they said. It didn't lead to anything. It just led to something that I promised, and something that was very, very popular for Jewish people and a lot of other people, too. I recognize Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, and I cut taxpayer funding to the corrupt United Nations Relief and Works Agency. And United Nations was interesting because, as you know, a few days ago they introduced me. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, I'm looking at my teleprompter, and the thing was dead, stone cold, dead. The thing's up here. I have a long, beautiful speech to make. I'm back 30 feet back, and I'm saying, they're introducing me. There's nothing on my teleprompter. So, but I made a speech. I actually got good marks. You think Biden could have done that? I don't think so. I don't think he could have done that. I don't think too many people could have done it. But actually, it was actually more of a speech from my heart, if you want to know the truth. I think it was maybe better in certain ways because it was from the heart. It has to be from the heart. Otherwise, you're in big trouble. But I cut taxpayer funding for that very corrupt United Nations Relief and Works Agency, and nobody thought that would be done, and withdrew from the horrible Iran nuclear deal that was imposed upon Israel by Barack Hussein Obama and Biden. And I don't think Biden knew anything about it, though. I don't think he knows anything about it now, actually, if you ask him. He'd say, what is that? And we obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity, making it impossible for them to have a nuclear weapon, which they would have had probably in about 2 months from that. But I've never asked Israel to compromise its security, but we had big, strong talk. Nobody's been better to Israel. No president's been better to Israel than Donald Trump. But we had a long, strong talk, Bibi and I, and he understands it's time. It's time. History has shown. And the people of Israel want it. And the people of the Middle East want it. The people of enemies of Israel want it. But they don't have really too many enemies right now. And you know what? Many countries have gained great respect for Israel, for the way they fight, for the job they do, including me. I had respect anyway, but they gained respect. History has shown us that those who have relations with Israel have thrived, while those who have devoted resources and attention toward the destruction and even annihilation of Israel have languished. They haven't done well. Israel is not going anywhere. They're going to coexist with other people and countries in the region, from Syria to Lebanon to Saudi Arabia. The promise of a new Middle East is so clearly within our reach. This is the closest we've ever come to real peace, not fake peace, not political fool's peace. If we can get this difficult problem solved, the opportunities for all within that vast region of this world, it's a vast region, it's unlimited. The Abraham Accords show that all countries are better off when they communicate and work together and embrace new opportunities. I hope Jared and Steve and Susie and Marco and JD, we have great people. I hope you guys are going to work very hard to get these other countries in, because now they have no excuse. There's no longer an excuse. They were somewhere hesitant. And I tell you, the 4 countries that went in, I give them tremendous credit, and it's worked out incredibly well for them. In the same spirit, I'm pleased to report that earlier today, we took another important step toward greater understanding in the region. A short time ago, we had a historic phone call in the Oval Office with Prime Minister Tani, who's really a great person. So we had a great talk, and I was on the phone, and Bibi was talking. Prime Minister Al Thani was of Qatar. They really had a heart-to-heart conversation. It was a great conversation, I thought. It was productive. It was everything that you need to have something turn out to be successful. And I want to thank Bibi, and I want to thank the Prime Minister. It was fantastic. We agreed to launch a formal trilateral mechanism between Israel, Qatar, and the United States to begin a dialogue to enhance mutual security, correct misperceptions, and avoid future misgivings. And I want to thank Qatar, its leadership, and the Emir. He's a fantastic person. I think, I'm going to be his public relations man, because I know him differently than a lot of people know him. But he wants peace. He wants to see peace. And its people, and they really acknowledge the critical role that they've played as mediator. And again, we're not quite finished. We have to get Hamas, but I think they're going to be able to do that. So now it's time for Hamas to accept the terms of the plan that we've put forward today. And again, this is a different Hamas than we were dealing with, because I guess over 20,000 have been killed. Their leadership has been killed 3 times over. So you're really dealing with different people than we've been dealing with over the last 4 years, 5 years. Everyone has done their part and come to the table in good faith. Our Arab and Muslim partners are fully prepared to step up and fulfill their commitments for the benefit of the people of Gaza and the entire region. They're willing to step up and do a lot. They really are. There are a lot of good people involved. Everybody who wants to see an end to the violence and destruction should be united in calling for Hamas to accept the extremely fair proposal, so that we can end the war and get us back our hostages right now and have everlasting peace. And I look forward to having relationships with everyone. As the chairman of the board, I'll be involved, and we'll have meetings with some very smart people that'll be working over there to make sure that we haven't just been wasting time with an agreement that doesn't get done. The task of building peace will not be easy. There are some of the hardest problems in the world to solve, and that's why it's been going on for so many centuries. But too many lives are at stake not to try, and this was more than a try. I mean, I think this is something that gets done when you have virtually every country, and these are powerful, powerful countries that have a lot of money, and the money can make things happen. A lot of countries try, and they don't have any money. These are very rich countries that can make things happen. So together we'll forge a much safer and more hopeful future for everybody, including Israel. And I want to thank Prime Minister Netanyahu for his partnership. And I want to thank all of the leaders, the kings and the emirs and the presidents and prime ministers, people I mentioned, And they've been absolutely fantastic to work with, and it's just happened very quickly. It's happened from a couple of weeks before I had a couple of meetings, but a couple of weeks before we went to the United Nations, and we had some incredible meetings. It all came to place. It all took place, and everybody wanted to be a part of it. I don't have anybody that's saying we don't want anything to do with it. It's just the opposite. And I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, a year ago, I don't think we would have had this kind of participation, Mr. VP, right? I don't think we would have had. It's been amazing. The participation was 100%. Everybody wants to be a part of it. And everybody, those very strong countries, everybody wants it to work. So, Bibi, congratulations on this. I think this will be your crowning achievement, frankly. If this all works out, we think it will. It's going to be your crowning achievement. And I want to thank you very much for being here. Thank you, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. President, first I want to thank you for graciously hosting me once again in the White House. And second, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your leadership. From Jerusalem to Tehran, from the Golan Heights to Gaza, you've proven time and again what I've said many times. You are the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And Mr. President, you and I both know it's not even close. While you focus at home on making America great again, your leadership abroad is changing the world for the better, ending wars and advancing peace. I believe that today we're taking a critical step towards both ending the war in Gaza and setting the stage for dramatically advancing peace in the Middle East, and I think beyond the Middle East, in very important Muslim countries. I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. We would not have achieved this turning point without the courage and sacrifice of our incredibly brave soldiers. They fight like lions to defend the people of Israel, and they serve on the front line in the war between civilization and barbarism. Mr. President, when our two countries stand shoulder to shoulder, we achieve the impossible. Just a few months ago, in Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer, we struck a decisive blow against Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. Your bold decision to send those B-2s made the region safer and the world safer. Now, under your leadership, we're taking the next step to win the war and expand the peace. Your plan is consistent with the 5 principles my government set for the end of the war and the day after Hamas. Everybody asks, what is your plan for the day after Hamas? Here's our plan. Passed it in the cabinet. All our hostages, both those who are alive and those who died, all of them will return home immediately. Hamas will be disarmed. Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will retain security responsibility, including a security perimeter for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Gaza will have a peaceful civilian administration that is run neither by Hamas nor by the Palestinian Authority. If Hamas agrees to your plan, Mr. President, the first step will be a modest withdrawal, followed by the release of all our hostages within 72 hours. The next step will be the establishment of an international body charged with fully disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza. I appreciate your willingness to lead the body, Mr. President. I really appreciate it because you have a lot of things to do, and this is important. And it reflects the confidence that this will give everyone, that things will be followed up on all the commitments made. The fact that you're taking this on, I think, helps a lot to make sure that everything flows in the direction that we want. Now, if this international body succeeds, we will have permanently ended the war. Israel will conduct further withdrawals linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future. I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed. But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself. This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way, but it will be done. We prefer the easy way, but it has to be done. All these goals must be achieved because we didn't fight this horrible fight, sacrifice the finest of our young men to have Hamas stay in Gaza and threaten us again and again and again with these horrific massacres. Mr. President, I was encouraged by your clear statement at the UN against the recognition of a Palestinian state. That would be an outcome that, after October 7th, would reward terrorism, undermine security, and endanger Israel's very existence. As for the Palestinian Authority, I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation. In your 2020 peace plan, which you mentioned just now, you made clear what that transformation requires. It's not lip service. It's not checking a box. It's a fundamental, genuine, and enduring transformation. And that means ending pay to slay, changing the poisonous textbooks that teach hatred to Jews, to Palestinian children, stopping incitement in the media, ending lawfare against Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, recognizing the Jewish state, and many, many other reforms. It won't come as a surprise to you that the vast majority of Israelis have no faith that the PA Leopard will change its spots. But rather than wait for this miraculous transformation, your plan provides a practical and realistic path forward for Gaza in the coming years, in which Gaza will be administered neither by Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority, but by those committed to a genuine peace with Israel. I think this can be not only a new beginning for Gaza, I think it can be a new beginning for the entire region. Under your leadership, we can re-energize, well, I've got to contribute my own, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords. That's what it's called in the original Hebrew, Abraham. Abraham is fine, Abraham, however you want to call it. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords that we forged 5 years ago. We can expand them to many more Arab and Muslim nations that choose moderation over extremism. I think there's an opportunity here. It's not going to be easy, it's tough going, but I think if we succeed, you're absolutely right. We're going to open possibilities that nobody even dreamed of. But I think we dream of them. As you've told me, Mr. President, and you've told the world many, many times, you said, remember October 7th. Remember October 7th. And we do. We will never forget the horrors of October 7th, and we will do whatever is necessary to make sure they don't happen again. Since October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price, but those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples. President Trump just said it. It's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed. And that's actually what is happening. We want the blessings. I think we've done a lot in the past 2 years to end the curse. We're not finished, but we've done a lot. And we've done a lot together to end the curse. I want to thank your entire team for their efforts to get to this point. I especially want to thank Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner for their indefatigable work to bring Israel and Arab states in the region closer together. I am deeply grateful to both of them for their work. We had a phone call today just to make it clear. I said to the Prime Minister of Qatar, Israel was targeting terrorists, wasn't targeting Qatar. And of course, we regretted the loss of the Qatari citizen, wasn't our target. And I very much appreciate President Trump's proposal to have a trilateral body, the United States, Israel, and Qatar, to work out respective grievances. There are quite a few. But if we could try to mitigate them or put it on a different footing, I think that'll be good for everyone. Above all the people, the fine team, and many helpers who've done this, I want to thank you, Mr. President. History has already shown that under your leadership, Israel and America can change the face of the Middle East. And today I'm hopeful that your plan to end the war in Gaza will do so again and do so soon. It will free our hostages, end Hamas's tyranny in Gaza, and enable a more secure and prosperous future for the peoples of our region. Thank you, Mr. President. May God bless America. May God bless Israel. May God bless the indispensable alliance between our countries. And may I add, in Hebrew, G'mal Chatima Tova, may we all be inscribed in the book of life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bibi. So I think while we wait for these documents to be signed and get everybody in line, I think it maybe is not really appropriate to take questions. I'm meeting with, as you know, a couple of Democrats in a little while about the country, about keeping our country open. They're going to have to do some things because their ideas are not very good ones. They're very bad for our country. So we'll see how that works out. But this is something that was really historic today. This was something that was amazing. I think, Bibi, I mean, depending on you, I think while we're waiting for signatures and waiting for approvals from a lot of different countries that are involved in this, we probably shouldn't take questions? Or would you like to take a question or two from perhaps a friendly Israeli reporter, if there's such a thing?
That's a very, very tough proposition. But I would think, Mr. President, that I would go by your instinct that this is, we'll have enough time for questions. Let's settle the issue first, I think.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.